speech. You've now got 12 seats in, and you're going up. I thought you might like to hear that.
I'm delighted. Nigel Jones is a very good member of Parliament who served that constituency very well, and he will continue to do so in the future. If I may just return,
Sure thing.
The important thing about this election is that the mandate that we have received, the vote that we have received, is for the things that we fought this election on, and we will carry that fight now, armed with those votes, into the next Parliament. And it will be about investment in education, and it will be about health, and it will be about constitutional change, and those are crucial. And I hope that opens the way to a new era of politics for us. The really big task that politicians must all, of whatever party, address is how we rebuild the links between people and politics, between government and governed in this country, and constitutional reform is one of the means by which we'll do that.
Mr. Ashdown, thank you very much for joining us. And now John Suchet, Conservative Party headquarters. John Suchet, I can see, just looking behind there is a chill in the air.
Well, yes, sort of. I hope you can hear me, Jonathan.
Easily, yes, easily.
There's a lot of noise in here tonight, but I have to tell you, not a politician among them. Those are journalists literally from the four corners of the globe. We haven't set eyes on a Conservative MP here for something like 2 to 2.5 hours. I have spoken to a senior official here tonight, and he gave me a very interesting line. He said, what we're suffering from tonight is a suppressed swing from the last election. In other words, in 1992, a lot of people wanted to vote Labour. They couldn't quite bring themselves to do it. This time they've done it. So he said, in a way, we started on the back foot, even back in 1992.
What an extraordinary thought. John, we'll join you again later. Thanks very much. Okay. And now it is just about on the hour. Let's have a look at our election scoreboard. And here, Labour we're predicting to win now with a majority of 177, considerably 20 higher than the exit poll. Labour, 206 seats in so far. Liberal Democrats on 13, Conservatives on 13, the rest on 7. And here is the prediction of the Labour majority. Labour, 418 seats in the new House of Commons we're predicting. The Conservatives, 156. Liberal Democrats, 57. And the rest, the Nationalists, on 28. So, Mike Brunson, what do you make of it?
Well, I think we now ought to be thinking our thoughts forward a bit, because with a majority of this side, of course, I mean, it's stating the obvious to say that the Labour programme will go through. So hold on to your hats is the answer, because they are going to change things. For all that people say that they're copying the Tories, there is all the business of constitutional change that we've talked about. There is a great deal else that they want to change. Let's not forget what they want to do about the House of Lords, for example. All of that agenda will now go through. And, of course, all their plans on altering the spending, the windfall tax, the budget that we're going to have. Gordon Brown earlier was telling us that he said it's going to be within 2 months. He's obviously going to keep to that. End of June, we have a budget. Windfall tax comes in. So, you know, we're set now. We're getting used, aren't we, after, what, 3 or 4 hours of it. You know, it's going to be a Labour government. Yes. But thinking through what it's going to mean. And, of course, the way the country has swung to the left with this big vote for the Liberal Democrats as well, it's going to be a very different country.
We've got also news. The first Sikh MP is now going to be in the House of Commons in Bradford West, because Marsha Singh has held on. It is a safe seat, but Marsha Singh has held on for Labour and joins the first Muslim MP in Glasgow Govan.
And I see we've also...
Who is a Labour millionaire called Mohammed Sawar, and he has held on for Labour in Glasgow Govan, which SNP thought it might get. Now let's have a look at Alistair with his swingometer.
Jonathan, thanks very much indeed. Let me remind you of what this does for you. It starts off at 0. Nobody changes their mind. Well, we know that people have changed their mind in a truly massive and historic way. As the swing moves across along the top column, it measures that proportion of swing. The average swing in the country, marginal seats and the rest of them, is 9.5. That would suggest a relatively modest majority for Mr. Blair of around about 120. But the targeting in the marginal seats, the fact that people know that they are in seats that really will determine the outcome of this general election, is fully up here at 12.8%. And that is why we're predicting a majority now of 177 for Mr. Blair.
We've just got some extraordinary news in that the 4th recount is now underway in Torbay. The 4th recount. The analysts will tell us sometime whether this is a record or not, but it must be very tight indeed. There have been, in the past, victories by 3 seats. There's one in 1966, but a 4th recount. And also, Alistair Burt is out the Tory Social Security Minister is out in Bury North. That has fallen to Labour. So another Tory scalp for the Labour Party. We can now, let's go up to Tatton, where Paul Davis is there, and we are waiting to hear whether Neil Hamilton's been ousted by Martin Bell. Paul, can you tell us?
We still are waiting, and we're likely to have to wait for half an hour, but if the pile of voting slips down below me is anything to go by, then Martin Bell has indeed recorded a remarkable victory. There are something like 3 votes for Bell for every 2 of Hamilton at the moment. I have to stress it is at the moment. There are still votes being counted. But when Martin Bell walked into this hall about 10 minutes ago, his supporters were already celebrating victory. There were handshakes all around. Neil Hamilton does not look a happy man, and at the moment it's looking very good for Martin Bell.
And you say how long before we're going to get it, do you think?
It's another half hour before we get the result, but it's looking increasingly as though it's going to be Bell, and it could even be by some margin.
Well, we will come back there, of course. We hope to catch the result, if not to hear it very soon. Thanks very much, Paul. Now, where shall we go now? Mike?
Well, that, if it came off, would really be the story of the election almost, wouldn't it? I mean, it's a pretty extraordinary story anyway, but as you know, I was very much in the thick of it in the famous Battle of Knutsford Heath, where this challenge was mounted.
I think we should not forget this picture, actually. It's a rather important picture. There were you as a sort of ringmaster as Neil Hamilton came up and interrupted Martin Bell's press conference, and you were standing orchestrating it.
Let's not make too much of it, because the extraordinary thing was these 2 characters coming together. There was Martin Bell, who'd been in politics, what, 2 days, 3 days, coming face to face with this man. And in the early stages, it looked as though the Tory faithful in Tatton would back their member right or wrong. But if it is true, if Paul Davis has got the right picture, and it does sound, you can very often tell from the piles of votes, that would be quite remarkable.
I'm just getting some news in now that you have to be extremely cautious with this, but our ITN correspondent in Enfield, Southgate, says that it looks as though Michael Portillo, who was still is Secretary of State for Defence, is in danger there, which means not that he's going to lose it, but that clearly the count is very, very close indeed, which is not surprising on some of these swings that we've been getting. Extraordinary. So, let's go to David Cowling for David. Can you give us, you've been crunching these numbers furiously over the last half hour or so. What are you getting?
Well, as with my colleagues, I'm just stunned by this. It seems virtually every piece of paper that's put in front of us, there's a new sort of record being broken. But one of the things that I think New Labour has done, and I think it's being proved, is that in the southeast of England, where Labour has been in retreat for 30 years, we're now predicting about 31 Labour seats. If any testimony at the end of this day should be recorded in terms of the success of New Labour, it's in this, the heartland of the conservatism for 100 years. Labour is making deep, deep inroads. Some of these swings are absolutely staggering.
David, just explain to us in that context why it is that the Liberal Democrats are doing so astonishingly well. Just remind us of that.
It is mixed in a way, Jonathan, because in some seats they're making gains directly from the Conservatives, but in a number of others, in Portsmouth South and in other seats, Labour's rise is eating into the Conservative vote, and sometimes the Lib vote is actually dropping a little, but they're slipping through the middle. So Labour actually, in some of these hopeless seats, is being the principal architect of the Lib Dem success.
Just shows how complicated it can be. Thanks. And now, because we were just talking about these extraordinary swings and gains in the regions and the different way it goes, Alistair, you're going to tell us about which region?
London.
London.
London. For the very important reason, A, that we were talking about Michael Portillo in Enfield Southgate, but also, if tonight is quite as historic as we do all believe that it is, London is at the very heart of the story. 74 seats in the capital, 8 of them Labour targets. That's, as John Prescott said many hours ago, on their traditional target seats. It's now many, many more than that. This was always a difficult area for Labour to convince people that they could be trusted. But just look at that. Labour have now achieved 50% of all of the votes cast in Greater London in this general election. The Tories are on 35%, the Lib Dems down on 11%. Compared with 92, the Labour vote is up 13.6%. The Tory vote is down by 13.6%. Very simply, that means that the swing directly from the Tories to Labour is 13.5%. Labour have already picked up 7 seats. If Enfield Southgate, Michael Portillo's seat, was to go, that would require a swing of 15%. But if they've decided they really don't like him, they're not far short of it even now. It could happen. Jonathan.
223 results so far in. Let's have a look at one or two of them now on the results monitor. Here we have Croydon North, gained by Labour with a majority of 18,000. Look at the swing again from Conservative to Labour, and just the kind of seat that Alistair was just talking about, 17.6% in Croydon North. Eastwood, the Labour gain in Eastwood, majority 3,236, another extraordinary good result for the Labour Party swing away from the Conservatives in what was a safe Tory seat, 14.3%. And Aberdeenshire West, the Liberal Democrat gain here, majority 2,662, the swing to them of 8.3%. And Dumfries, which was a very important seat for the Tories to hold, they should have held it under normal circumstances, majority 9,500 there, and the swing from Conservative to Labour of over 16% in Dumfries, an astonishing swing. Romford again, majority just taken, Romford 649. This was thought to be a totally safe Tory seat, but clearly not. Swing to Labour 15.6%. And now to Torbay, the fourth recount. It looks as though we're going to get the result. They also had local election results. You can see Rupert Allison standing there in the middle. This is clearly going to be a very tight result, as the Liberal Democrats hope they might take it. It needs a 5% swing. 5% swing, and Liberal Democrats would take it. On the sort of swings they've been getting, they might well do so. The returning officer there, who's clearly the mayoress, trying to get some order in this. You see how they advertise themselves, the Riviera of the Southwest there, complete with illuminated palm trees by the look of it. Rupert Allison has been here since '87. They thought he might go in the past, but we'll find out whether he holds on or not now.
For the Torbay constituency, I hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate is as follows. Allison Rupert William Simon, the Conservative Party candidate, 21,082. Booth Graham Harry, the UK Independence Party candidate, 1,962. Cowling Bruce Henry, Liberal Party candidate, 1,161. Morey Michael John, the Labour Party candidate, 7,923. Sanders Adrian Mark, Liberal, Democrat leader Paddy Ashton, 21,094.
So there is the result. Rupert Allison in defeat there. The Liberal Democrats have gained. Adrian Saunders has won the seat for the Liberal Democrats. An extremely happy man he is. It has fallen on a swing. It needed 5%.
David.
Trying to get them to quiet down to get the rest of the results in.
100. And I hereby declare that Adrian Mark Sanders is duly elected Member of Parliament for the Torbay constituency.
No wonder there was a recount. If there is a majority smaller than that in this election, a lot of us will eat hats or whatever we've got. That's a majority of 12 for the Liberal Democrats, 21,000 votes. The Conservatives, Rupert Allison, 21,082. Look at that, 21,094, 21,082. The swing there from Conservative to Liberal Democrats, it has to be said Rupert Allison did very well. He's held that swing down. It needed 5%. It went on 5.1%. And another astonishing result there, Norman Lamont is out. You've just seen that in Harrogate and Nesborough. The Torbay change in the share of the vote, Liberal Democrats down just a touch there, but the Conservatives have done it, down 10.3%, Labour up 5.3%. So it's the Conservative collapse there which has helped the Liberal Democrats just get in despite how the other parties did. Colin Rallins. Colin.
Well, what a nail-biter. A little bit below what the Lib Dems would expect in the South-West, but they've won the seat. And personal note, really, about Adrian Sanders. You remember in the 1994 Euro elections, the Lib Dems narrowly lost a seat to the Conservatives because of the candidature of a literal Democrat. It was Adrian Sanders who was the victim there, and he's obviously been biting his nails again tonight, but he's back, 12-vote majority.
Thank you, Colin. We can go up to Enfield South, where there's another nail-biter going on. Lawrence McGinty's there. Lawrence, what's the feeling in the Conservative camp? that Michael Portillo can make it, or that he's likely not to make it?
Well, he's actually standing just below me at the moment. You can't see him on the camera because he's under the balcony, but there are some very glum faces there. And the two tables of ballot papers you can see show why. Because the one on the left is for Mr. Portillo, and the table on the right is for the Labour candidate, Stephen Twigg. And it looks very much as if he's won.
That's the table. Sorry, Lawrence. The table on the left, as we look at it, there is for Michael Portillo. You can see it's not reaching the end of the table. And on the other side, it's stacked heavily.
Quite to the end, but on the other table for Stephen Twigg does. We can count them at about 19,000 votes for Stephen Twigg and about 18,000 for Michael Portillo. Mr. Portillo arrived about 5 minutes ago. He's in a huddle with some of his party workers, all looking very glum. And Stephen Twigg is looking very excited and has just gone into another huddle with some of his party workers.
We will be back for that result. Now, if that is the case, if Michael Portillo is out there, that is really a shattering result, because he's the person that a large proportion of the Conservative Party would look to lead the party out of their present veil of the shadow of the valley of death, isn't it, Michael?
Yes, I don't know where this evening's going to end, do you? It's extraordinary. The high hopes, of course, among those in the shattered Tory party that Mr. Portillo would, in fact, be a leadership contender.
If he's out, if it's out, it's a swing of 16% against him.
Yeah. And these London swings are absolutely massive. I mean, the Eurosceptics have plainly had an absolutely dreadful night. Norman Lamont not making it in Harrogate, for example. Michael Portillo out, the Budgeons have gone. You know, Euroscepticism has stood for absolutely nothing tonight. And
it makes it appear to be insignificant that Leeds North East has now just gone to Labour. The one that a few months ago everyone was saying, well, would Leeds North East fall? Could it deliver this 4.7%, need the one seat for victory? It goes through, and you say, oh, yes, Leeds North East has fallen.
And indeed, as we were saying, no Tory MPs in Leeds now. Another city without any Tory representation.
Let's go and join Theresa Gorman now in Billericay. Theresa, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Theresa Gorman? It's Jonathan Dimbleby here, trying to have a word with you, Theresa Gorman.
Oh, really? Well, that's sweet of you.
Yes, I know it is. I'm a very sweet fellow. And it's always nice to talk to you, Theresa Gorman, even when you face the, not yourself, because you'll probably stay in, but one of the few who will, by the look of it. It's an unbelievable night, isn't it?
Well, you know, you please some of the people some of the time, and some of the people not all of the time, and I'm afraid it's one of those occasions when our policies have not been what the Conservative voters in the country wanted. The Labour Party have taken over most of our policies, and on the doorstep, in my constituency, time and time again, people said that they were going to support me because of my views on Europe. Well, we'll have to see whether that comes through in the ballot.
But we've had lots of your colleagues who've been just like you on Europe, even more outspoken on Europe, than the Nick Budgeons, hosts of people who've gone down the tubes despite being Eurosceptic.
I didn't know there were many people more outspoken than me on Europe, but
well,
I'll take
all right,
your word for that.
Rivaling you. I mean, there is another view that the problem for the party, amongst others, is that it's people like you who've been in ferocious battle inside the party that have driven people to despair, saying, how can that party possibly govern when it's split from top to bottom on Europe?
Now, the issue that we refused to acknowledge in this election, but which kept on rising to the surface, was Europe. Europe is the issue of how our country is governed, perhaps for the next 200 or 300 years. And people are very concerned.
I'm going to leave. Thank you very much indeed, Mrs. Gorman. Here's the result in Ian Lang's seat.
Of Galloway and Upper Nithsdale in 1 minute. Could I ask for total silence whilst I am speaking? Could I ask you to be courteous?
2.8 swing to the SNP, which would drive him out. He's seriously at risk, very clearly.
I will commence to read the result in 30 seconds.
A very disciplined returning officer wants silence, as he quite rightly has the right to demand, before he delivers the verdict of the people of Galloway and Upper Nithsdale.
I'm about to announce the result for the Galloway and Upper Nithsdale constituency.
This is Ian Lang,
I, James Maguire Smith, being the returning officer for the parliamentary election in Galloway and Upper Nithsdale, hereby give notice that the total number of votes polled for each candidate in the Galloway and Upper Nithsdale constituency was as follows. Kenneth Clarke, the Scottish Labour Party candidate, 6,861. Katie Clarke, the Scottish Labour Party candidate, 6,861. 68.
He's making a bit of a meal of this, taking his time. Mr. Flynn. I don't know whether he's after a bit more silence than he's got, but he's certainly taking his time.
Absolute silence. He doesn't want a single reaction.
They're very individual characters, returning officers.
Certainly are.
Katie Clarke, the Scottish Labour Party candidate, 6,861. 6861. Alan Kennedy, the Referendum Party, 428. 428. Ian Lang, Scottish Conservative and Unionist Party candidate, 12,825. 12825. John Ewan McKercher, Scottish Liberal Democrat, 2,700. 2700. Alistair Morgan, Scottish National Party, 18,000. Alistair Morgan, Scottish National Party,
that is it, isn't it, there?
18,449.
Ian Lang is out. You can see him on the left of your screen there.
Joseph
And
Smith,
he
UK
is
Independent
down
Party,
to the SNP.
189. Rog Wood, Independent, 566. 566.
We'll get the full
I
results in a
hereby
minute. This is
declare
the
that
third
Neil Morgan
Scottish
has been duly elected
Cabinet
to serve as a
Minister
Member of
to leave
Parliament
Parliament. Joining the host now on this. Here is the majority for the SNP, Alistair Morgan, of 5,624. Swing 9.5%. And now to Sedgefield, where Tony Blair is about to address the members of his club, and they're going to love it. That's one thing you can be sure of.
Thanks very much.
The supporters of the
Thank you very
Trimdon
much
Club.
indeed. And, well, you know me, I'm never complacent, but no, it's looking very good all around the country. I just want to say a few things to you on this evening that is more moving and more important, certainly, than any of my life before. I want to say to you, first of all, thank you, because it's you people here who've been my foundation and support all the way through my political career. And you've given me the chance to lead my party, and I hope now to lead my country. Thank you. And you know, it was here in this constituency that we created New Labour. Here that we recognised how important it was that we took the values of the Labour Party, the basic beliefs in justice and progress and a fair deal for ordinary people, in a sense of community and society, and we said, these are the values of the Labour Party, but we've got to make them live and breathe again for the modern world. And we did it. And we built a party here of which we're proud. Proud because we knew that all over this country there were people that were crying out for a sensible, mainstream, moderate alternative to the Conservative Party. A party they could support and look up to and respect. A party that would set about changing the things in British society that people know need changing. Decent schools for all our children, not just a few. A national health service rebuilt as the pride of the nation again. Our young people given hope, our elderly security in their old age, a nation reborn and renewed. That is what New Labour was always about. Not just about changing the Labour Party, but changing it for a purpose so that we could make the changes in our country that we know need to be made. That is one reason why tonight we are content and happy. Because we know that we have the courage to build a new Labour Party capable of taking this country through to the new millennium. But there is a second reason too, and a reason that I am very conscious of. That support that's been given to us tonight has been given to us as a new Labour Party. And it's been given to us so that we can bring our country together, so that we can unify it, so that we can put an end to divisions, so that we can build one country, one nation, one society, where every person gets a chance and a stake in it, where no one is left out. That is the message that we have taken round this country, and that is the message the country has heard and celebrated.
Dissident voice in the Trindon Labour Club when he speaks like that to them.
And it's a great thing, is it not, to think of people from all walks of life, all classes, all sections of society coming behind a party that wants to unify this country. A party that will govern this country, not on the basis of sectional interests or vested interests, not on the basis of paying off this deal or that deal, but on the basis of bringing this country together and giving it unity and purpose for the future. We can do that now. And I learned those simple lessons and values here in this constituency. It's a strange thing to think as I look around this room and I see so many faces that I've known over all the years. So much good and decent and loyal support. And through all those bad and sad times in the Labour Party when we were trying to build this party into a modern party of the future, and sometimes it seemed difficult to do, but we persevered. And I was able to persevere because of the strength that you gave me. This is the foundation of my political life and career here in this constituency. And I cannot tell you what pleasure and pride it gives me to see so many people here whose loyal support and whose basic decency have made me what I am today. And my greatest pleasure will be to repay the trust that you've put in me. I believe in you, and I believe that you represent all the best in this country. And the greatest pride I could ever have is to repay that trust 1,000-fold. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, I bet he's brought a tear or two to the eyes of his supporters there who've been waiting for that. They stand to greet him and to say, right on, Tony, you're our man. The Trindon Labour Club, which was the seat for source of New Labour, as he said, and indeed as Mike Brunson was telling us before. Meanwhile, a lot of other results are coming in of enormous significance, which we might go to. He's going down amongst his people. Lots of happiness there. Cherry Blair looking particularly happy as well, being allowed to wander around, he herself. He's a jolly good fellow, say the supporters in Trindon Labour Club. And they'll probably want to go on saying it all night as well if he stays there, but he is actually going to be on his way down to London soon to join a whole load of his other supporters at the Festival Hall.
I was just thinking, if that's their version there, my goodness me, they're going to be raising the roof in the Festival Hall, aren't they? That was a little tiny rehearsal for the singing later on.
A rehearsal for the Festival Hall. Right, let's now give you some of the results that have been coming in. Just first of all, I see that there are ups and downs for the Liberal Democrats. Simon Hughes, who had their only seat in London, is out. Labour have gained Southwark North and Bermondsey. Two former ministers are out. Rhodes Boyson, who's an education minister, and Sir John Gorst in Hendon, they're out as well. But to see where we are with 310 results now in, let's have a summary. Labour, we are now predicting to win with a majority of 179 seats, just edged up on the results in so far. 310 seats of those, Labour's got 258, well on the way to that 330. The Conservatives have got 26. That, of course, will go up. It's still because we're getting the urban areas first and the shires are coming in later. The Liberal Democrats on 17. So, here is the prediction, that Labour will have 419 seats, Conservatives 155, Liberal Democrats 56 still, and the rest on 29. That's the Nationalists in the next House of Commons. And here are some Labour results for you. They've gained Croydon North, they've gained Hove, they've gained Hornchurch and Cleethorpes. These are seats that would once have been thought to be quite safe Tory seats. Conservatives have lost Perth to the SNP. They've held on to Aldridge Brownhills, they've lost Tayside North, and they've held on to Havant. They've held on to Havant. And here are some Lib Dem results. Lib Dems have gained North Avon, they've gained Sheffield Hallam, they've gained Torbay in that tiny victory of 12 votes. Liberal Democrats also gained Carshalton and Wallington. And yeah, Ian Lang, that was in Galloway and Upper Nisdale, has gone down. In Forsyth, Michael Forsyth, in Stirling, Michael Forsyth, David Mellor out in Putney, Nicholas Budgeon out, Marcus Fox in Shipley, and Robin Squire out as well, the junior minister. Lots of Tory heads. Rupert Allison is gone. Norman Lamont, who must have thought he got a safe seat in Harrogate and Knaresborough, is out. And I think that I may have given you a wrong piece of information about Simon Hughes, but we don't know what's going on. There's a lot of confusion there, so don't take it yet that he is out. I may have just got it a touch early. Meanwhile, Julia Somerville is at the Festival Hall celebration. Julia, you probably heard up in Trimdon they were singing for He's a Jolly Good Fellow in the club there. What's it like down here?
Absolute bedlam, in 2 words. But I have with me somebody who's well used to projecting above the noise, and that's Mick Hucknall of Simply Red, who should perhaps be now named more aptly Totally Red. Mick, Labour made a great point of wanting to reach out to young people this time, to reach that generation who'd never known anything but Tory rule. Do you think that they were successful?
Well, I think they've reached out to everybody, haven't they? They've reached out to old and new. It's been an astonishing result. I thought it was going to be a landslide, but nothing at these proportions, you know. It's an amazing result. I think it's the country. They've decided and they've shown us where they want to go. And I'm almost speechless, really. I think a lot of people out there are going to be like, I can't believe this. We didn't think it was this going to be this amazing.
It's often said that young people just coming out of their teens and so on, the ones who were eligible to vote first time round, were turned off by politics, felt there was nothing relevant in it for them. Do you think that the Labour Party succeeded in making them feel that actually perhaps there was something that was relevant to them?
Well, I'd like to think so, but I think you're not going to really find that out until some statistics come out later on. As I said, clearly everybody seems to have gone for this. We're witnessing almost the disintegration of the Conservative Party as we know it. You know, they're becoming a minority party in a way that we've never ever dreamed of before. It's just astonishing.
Well, you're not the only one, I think, who's very, very astounded and surprised. Big helpful. Thanks very much indeed. Back to you now, Jonathan.
Julia, we'll join you again soon with 318 results in now. We are predicting a Labour majority. It's edging up. A Labour majority of 181. Alistair's got his battleground.
Jonathan, thanks. One piece of very important information, and that is that on this night of history-making, Labour have now passed the point of 57 net gains. So they are now, per adventure, the largest single party. But as you'll see by looking at the battleground, it's a heck of a lot bigger than that. They have ploughed through these 1% and 2% swings. Remember, these are the number of people out of every 100 who have to change their mind. They haven't actually got Brighton Pavilion yet, but I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever that that will tumble. That's the largest single party pointer. They've ploughed through here, 3 out of every 100 changing their mind. Bury North, that was the more difficult of the 2 Bury seats. Bury South's way back there. Both of them have gone through Leeds North East, which is the point at which they start to build their majority. Wolverhampton and Birmingham we've talked about, so let's shunt it back down again and start moving into the even more difficult territory for Labour to win. Cleethorpes, Colne Valley, Aberdeen South, Dumfries, they've gone. Let's move over here. 7 out of every 100, 8 out of every 100 people changing their minds. 9 out of every 100. Then Crosby was the one that went on that massive swing, going up to 18%. Nearly 1 in 5 people changing their mind. Only then do we start to see the Tories holding on a bit. Marcus Fox's seat in Shipley, that went. Shunt down again to the really difficult territory. And here, we've already talked about Aldridge. Over here, Yorkshire East and Meriden, Ian Mill's seat. A clutch of Tory victories there. And in this final column, 14 out of every 100 people changing their mind, just 3 Tory seats. That and only there is where any kind of fight back begins. And before I pass you back to Jonathan, I can tell you, as predicted, Brighton Pavilion has gone. Jonathan.
Thank you. And now here is Rushcliffe. This is Kenneth Clarke's seat. We'll hear that he's held and won his seat.
I do hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate at the said election is as follows. Boot Samuel, Liberal Democrat, 8,851. Chad Salary Catherine, the Referendum Party candidate, 2,682. I'll repeat that, 2,682. Clarke Kenneth Harry, the Conservative Party candidate, 27,558. Misiewska Anna, Natural Law Party, 115. Moore Joseph Duncan, UK Independence Party, 403. Pettit Jocelyn, the Labour Party candidate, 22,503. And I do hereby declare, I'll repeat that, and I do hereby declare that the said Kenneth Harry Clarke is duly elected Member of Parliament for the said constituency. Thank you.
Not a surprise there. Kenneth Clarke holds that seat, one of the few Tories to be happily back in there. Here he's going to speak to his electors.
Well, Mr. Returning Officer, ladies and gentlemen, firstly I'm very grateful to the people of Rushcliffe for returning me to represent them again, which is a privilege I've had for 27 years, and I look forward to representing all of them to the best of my ability for another Parliament, which looks set to go well into the next century. For 18 of those years, I've had the pleasure of serving in government in many posts as a much reshuffled career. I'm extremely proud of what we've achieved in that 18 years, and I believe we can look back on a period of office in which we have transformed this country to make it a much more successful, self-confident and proud state. And I trust in the national interest that those who are now going to take responsibility for our affairs take good care of them and achieve success themselves. I particularly hope that in terms of jobs and prosperity and growth of the economy, we do well. I also hope we continue to improve the quality of our public services and demonstrate to the world that the quality of life in this country is one of the finest that you can find anywhere, and I hope they enhance what we have achieved over our period of office. On this occasion, when we are facing a tremendous change in the country, obviously we're reaching the end of a long night that people will analyse tomorrow, and then we see how the Conservative Party will shape up an opposition constructively, I trust, using our experience to the best, seeking to ensure that the ideas we put forward forcefully in this election are pursued forcefully in the next Parliament, and we continue to make a worthwhile contribution to our national affairs. For this evening, I would only say, as everybody here has made a political speech to our electors and against each other at mass meetings and so on, firstly, I'm very grateful to you, Mr. Returning Officer, for the great effectiveness with which you carried out the count. I said you wouldn't finish before 3 o'clock. I won't repeat the time at which you said you would finish. You have beaten my dire forecast, and I'm very grateful to all those who've done a long night's work on the count.
Kenneth Clarke encouraging the Conservatives to be constructive in opposition. He is going to be a very big player in this broken party.
That was, I think, only just this side of a bid for the leadership. He would hate me for saying that, but it is quite clear that Kenneth Clarke now believes that he has got to do his bit in shaking the party back into, getting the party back into shape. That's the second time this evening. Earlier in our interview, now again, he's going to talk about constructive opposition. And, of course, we await to hear the fate of Michael Portillo, which we heard about earlier, and Malcolm Rifkind and so on. It may be that, and indeed
Let us go now up to Ross Skye and Inverness. This is the Charles Kennedy safe seat for him, or should be safe seat for him, for Liberal Democrats.
Les Durant's Referendum Party, 535. Alan Hopkins, Scottish Green Party, 306. Charles Kennedy, Scottish Liberal Democrat, 15,472. Mary MacLeod, Scottish Conservative and Unionist Party, 4,368. Donnie Munro, Scottish Labour, 11,453. Margaret Patterson, Scottish National Party, 7,821. And that Charles Kennedy has been duly elected to serve as the Member of Parliament for the parliamentary constituency of Ross, Skye
That's a
and Inverness
perfectly
West.
safe seat for Charles Kennedy there. Now, there's some interesting facts, though. They're only in Scotland now, only Edinburgh Pentlands, which is Malcolm Rifkin's seat yet to be declared, is left for the Scotland, for the Tories. If he loses that, as he's in risk of doing, there'll be no Tory seats in Scotland at all. The Tories are also facing virtual wipeout in Wales. We've got 339 results in so far. Let's have a look at a few more of them now on my results computer. There's Brent North. Labour have gained Brent North with the majority of 4,019. The swing from Conservative to Labour there, 19%. And I can see there that Tony Marlow is out in Northampton. Labour have gained Northampton. Tony Marlow, the right winger, is out, but continue with this. Clwyd West, Labour have gained with a majority of just under 2,000. Swing for Conservatives, throwing out Roderick Richards, the controversial and colourful Tory MP as was there, to swing there 11%. And here is Harrogate and Knaresborough, a Liberal Democrat gain. Just look at this, a majority of 6,236. It needed a 9% swing. Phil Willis has got in there. Norman Lamont is out, or he's not able to hold it for the Tories, a seat he wanted to get, so that he could be a powerful figure as a Eurosceptic in the next Parliament. The swing there from Conservative to Liberal Democrats, a huge swing of 15.7%. Here's Sutton and Cheam. This is Olga Maitland has gone down in Sutton and Cheam. A Liberal Democrat gain, majority 2,000. Swing from Conservative to Liberal Democrats, 13%. And here is Gordon. Now, this is, formally speaking, a Liberal Democrat gain, because it's notionally a Tory seat. In fact, it is won, therefore, by the Liberal Democrats, although Malcolm Bruce was in the old seat after the boundary changes, before the boundary changes. His majority there, just under 7,000. Many people thought that he would be out, but the swing again against the Conservatives, Liberal Democrats, one of the highest we've got, just under 19%. Mike, these swings are beginning to look really quite extraordinary.
Quite extraordinary.
Scotland out, Wales out, you know.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it looks like a wipeout in Scotland and Wales. Our experts are telling us that this is the lowest Conservative share of the vote since 1859, and it's the lowest number of Conservative seats since 1906, and certainly the highest Labour majority ever. Where were the superlative words that one has to use? Stop.
It's quite difficult to find the language to describe the scale of what is happening.
And more third-party seats than since 1923.
And the
history indeed is being made.
It certainly is. And with the Labour majority is settling at the moment at 177 majority for Labour, a swing of just under 10% across the country as a whole, with 345 results in. And we are predicting Labour with 418 seats in the next Parliament, the Conservatives on just 157, the Liberal Democrats on 55. An extraordinary result. I mean, you take the Rhodes-Boyson seat, 18.8% from Conservative to Labour in Brent North.
Well, I'm sure that, as Alistair will tell us when we come back to him, the swings in London have been enormous.
We will go to him, but here is Tatton. You can see the White Knight, as he was described by many people on the left as you look there. Also a lot of other extraordinary characters, but Martin Bell is standing on the left there, and we will see whether he has ousted Neil Hamilton or not in this unique contest, where, if you remember, Tory and Liberal Democrat candidates stood down so that Martin Bell could stand as the Sleaze candidate, although he wasn't called that, he was independent. Here we're going to get the returning officer with the result.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the result now for the Tatton constituency. I, Brian Longden, being the acting returning officer at the election of a Member of Parliament for the Tatton constituency, held on the 1st day of May 1997, do hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate at the election is as follows. Martin Bell,
Independent.
29,300.
Puts his hand in his pockets, quite abashed by what looks like the scale of certain victory. $29,354 votes. David Lawrence Bishop,
The Lord Byrow versus the Scallywag Tories.
116 votes. Mostyn Neil Hamilton,
Conservative.
18,000.
So there it is.
18,277 votes. Sam Hill,
Independent.
295. Michael Paul Kennedy,
Natural Law Party.
So there are a lot of minor parties here who've come up to Tatton for the publicity and to make their views known. But this extraordinary result, Martin Bell standing there in victory. The television reporter asked or decided he'd stand against Neil Hamilton, who was under a great cloud of allegations, financial sleaze allegations, which are still unproven. And Martin Bell has done it. He's walked in, never been in politics before, no one knew his political views, but he's walked in there and he's ousted a former cabinet minister, senior member of the Conservative Party. And it's difficult to think of any parallel for this astonishing result. He simply campaigned saying, effectively, I am Mr. Clean, vote for me. And here is the full result. A majority of 11,000 for Martin Bell, just under 30,000 Conservatives, 18,000, and we'll hear him speaking now. The swings make no sense here at all because he's an independent candidate. Here is Martin Bell in the most extraordinary victory of this election.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Longden, I believe this is a proud moment for the people of Tatton, though I have to say a rather humbling one for me. I did not do this, you did it. It was not my victory, it was your victory. Though maybe there was a time when I received the endorsement of Sir Alec Guinness that I knew the force was with us. I believe you have lit a beacon which will shed light in some dark corners and illuminate the Mother of Parliament itself. It is a strong signal to the rest of the country which will be heeded. My thanks go to the returning officer and his staff, to the police, of course to my own staff, Kate Jones, my publisher and agent, Melissa, my daughter and spin doctor, Nigel Bateson, my former cameraman and close friend, to Kate H. Dave Keane and many others. What you have accomplished here has been to me some kind of a political miracle. I shall be and shall remain independent. I shall take no party whip. I shall serve for one term only. I am deeply grateful to all of you, and may I just repeat for the last time a couple of lines from G.K. Chesterton that I used during the campaign. Smile at us, pay us, pass us, but do not quite forget that we are the people of England, and we have not spoken yet. You have spoken tonight magnificently, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
An eloquent political speech from the non-political victor in Tatton, Martin Bell. What do you make of it, Mike? I mean, you don't know what to make of anything tonight, but that is an astonishing thing to have happened.
Absolutely extraordinary. I was at Martin Bell's, as we all were. I was at Martin Bell's opening press conference. He sat there behind the table, and he really didn't know what he'd taken on, but had been forced towards it, and people had said, that was 3 weeks, I've worked it out, it was 3 weeks and 3 days ago. He entered this whole thing as a political virgin 3 weeks and 3 days ago. And I had the sense up there, you know, that somehow or other, because that is true blue country up there, Tatton, and I thought to myself, you know, are these people really ever going to do it to that extent? And my goodness me, they have. I think the Conservative Party has been punished for a lot of things tonight, and that was the punishment that they have doled out the electors to them for sleaze, for all the things that have gone wrong.
That phrase he used, "you've lit a beacon," clearly he touched people who would not go naturally out of the Tories. But we can now go to Edinburgh Pentlands for this last Tory seat in Scotland to see whether Malcolm Rifkind has held on or not. It's only a 4.5%.
Here is the result of the election
swing
in the Edinburgh Pentlands constituency.
And he would be out, the Foreign Secretary.
The percentage poll was 76.65%. The votes cast for each candidate were as follows: Linda Margaret Clarke, Scottish Labour Party, 19,675. Jennifer Ann Dawes, Scottish Liberal Democrat, 4,575. Stuart Gibb, Scottish National Party, 5,952. Robin Charles Morton Harper, Scottish Green Party, 224. Alistair David McConaughey, UK Independence Party, 81. Malcolm MacDonald, Referendum Party, 422. Malcolm Leslie Rifkind, Scottish Conservative and Unionist, 14,813. And I declare that Linda Margaret Clarke has been elected to serve in Parliament.
That is it in Scotland. That's it for Malcolm Rifkind and for the Tory party. Labour have gained Edinburgh Pentlands. He could not hold on. He's held on before. His majority for Labour, for Linda Clarke, who is Scotland's most senior woman barrister, incidentally, majority of 4,862. The swing against Malcolm Rifkind, the Conservatives, swing from Conservative to Labour, 9.8%. Let's look at the change in the share of the vote. Labour up 11.8%. Conservatives down 7.8%. The SNP down 2.7%. The Liberal Democrats down 2.7%. So that is the Tories. The Tories are out of Scotland. They've lost all the seats, all 10, 11 seats they had in Scotland. Mike Brunson.
But they're falling like hammer blows now, aren't they? I mean, the psychological effect of losing your Foreign Secretary, a Conservative Foreign Secretary losing in that way, it far exceeds anything that we remember, for example, Chris Patton losing Bath last time. I mean, this is just total disaster. You join that, Ian Lang going, Michael Forsyth going.
The list goes on and on and on. I mean, when we get time, we'll list the whole lot who have gone as senior figures. David Butler.
Well, this is overwhelming. I just noticed the fall of Warwick and Leamington, Anthony Eden's old seat, the very heartland of England, which stood firm in 1945. On these figures, it is outside the ordinary understanding of things. In 1906, Scotland and Wales were almost Conservative-free, but they weren't completely Conservative-free. Now you have a situation when three of the four parts of Great Britain have no Conservative representation whatsoever. Another thing I'm noticing is how extraordinarily big the swing has been in the outer fringes of London. It looks as though Michael Portillo is out in the whole of that area.
Okay, David, thank you very much. Labour have gained, imagine it, they've gained Finchley. It looks as though, it only looks as though Michael Portillo might be out in Enfield Southgate. We heard that they were very gloomy. We haven't yet got that fully. We'll bring it to you straight away. Meanwhile, David Rose is up in Stirling. David Rose, well.
Scotland a Tory-free zone, Jonathan. And this is all the more important, apart from the humiliation, because how on earth do they mount a shadow Scottish team to scrutinise Mr. Blair's devolution plans? I've been asking myself, why has it happened? I think 2 points occur. Mr. Blair's appeal, which we thought was aimed at Middle England, has really played big in Middle Scotland. Secondly, Mr. Major and Mr. Forsyth's attempt to damn Labour's devolution plans haven't played at all in England and have rebounded totally on the Tories in Scotland.
Thank you, David. We can go up to Edinburgh. Pentlands again from Malcolm Rifkin's speech.
I have been privileged to have worked with a marvellous team of colleagues in Pentlands during this campaign, and I am naturally very grateful to them and to the many thousands of people who have supported our candidature.
Neil Derrick, Scottish Liberal.
Oops, something's gone rather wrong there. We'll try and recapture that, but the importance of that fact cannot be overestimated. We can go back to it. Hold on, Michael, I was going to ask you a question.
One feels has been a very worthwhile experience. I'm conscious of the fact that for all my fellow Conservatives, north and south of the border, this is a very...
Here is John Major arriving at his count in Huntingdon. He's left his home in Great Stewkley. It's about a 15-minute drive to St Ivo Leisure Centre, where we will see him in the murk there amongst the policemen and the cameras in a moment, emerging from his car. There he is. He knows that he is Prime Minister only for a few more hours. He's not answering any of the questions as he wouldn't expect him to do from reporters as he goes in, but he looks extremely serious. It looks as though Norma Major, uncharacteristically, she may be with him, but I didn't see her go in with him. Meanwhile, here is Tony Blair at Teesside Airport on his way south, the victor, the man who knows he's going to be Prime Minister. What a contrast between the two figures, how an election, the voice of the British people, can turn upside down in a moment the power and responsibility of individuals. Cherie Blair going up into the aeroplane that will take them down to London, where they will then go to the festival hall. He seems reluctant to go. He's going to say goodbye. Doesn't like the plane. What might it be?
I think
he's found a friendly hand he wanted to shake. He wanted to say thank you, I suspect, to the people who are responsible for looking after his departure there at the airport. Prime Ministers have to do a great deal of this, incidentally, of remembering to thank all the right people who are in official positions, whether it's his, but those are his party supporters as well.
There's a double thumbs up there, you noticed.
Yep.
And shall we just underline that result from Finchley? Finchley, of course, Margaret Thatcher's former seat, a bit changed, but the thought of Finchley going to Labour is truly astonishing.
So off goes Tony Blair. The engines of his jet will soon be starting. The door will close, and he will be down amongst even more admirers. Those are the press corps who've presumably been accompanying for most of his campaign so far. Some of them get on board. There'll be pool photographers to take the pictures that other newspapers, magazines all around the world will buy when the story of Tony Blair's victory is told. Labour have gained St Albans, where they leapt from third place to take it. It was Peter Lilly left safely and wisely for another seat. You can just... There's Tony Blair, sitting there relaxed, jacket off now. We're still waiting, of course, to find out whether or not Michael Portillo has managed to hold on in Enfield Southgate or not.
Simon Hughes, I think we have some news about him.
Look at the journey that this man has made. He's made it in such a short time. If you think that he was a Tory candidate at his school in 1966, that he was a barrister from 76 to 83, that he met Cherry Booth then in the chambers of Alexander Irvine, who's almost certainly to be the new Lord Chancellor. He then became an MP in 1983, and he only became party leader three years ago. He became party leader. It is an astonishing odyssey, political odyssey for one man.
It most certainly is. It's quite extraordinary. Youngest Prime Minister this century, as I said, about to celebrate his 44th birthday.
And I must just clear one thing. I made an error with Simon Hughes. He is back in Southwark North and Bermondsey. As I slightly forewarned you just now, I got that wrong. We announced it slightly early and slightly wrong. The Liberal Democrats held on in Southwark North and Bermondsey. My apologies to Simon Hughes and the Liberal Democrats for that error. We're incidentally waiting to go down to another seat that could be a problem, which is Bristol West, the seat of William Walgrave, who was the government was in the government, senior figure in the government. Given these kind of swings, he could fall to the Liberal Democrats on a swing of 8%. He's been Chief Secretary to the Treasury, a very key figure in the Tory government and one of the party's leading intellectuals, and often in the past thought of as a potential Prime Minister, and if not that, a Foreign Secretary. But he is, in this huge sweeping election that we've got tonight, he is potentially in danger when we're going there. Sir George Gardner, who has lost his attempt to win in Reigate for the referendum party, is saying that if John Major had taken his advice, doubtless the Tories would have won. I think that is slightly optimistic. Meanwhile, let's have a quick look now, with 389 results in, what the House of Commons will look like virtually if Alistair's got it right. Alistair.
What do you mean if I've got it right? That's a bit unfair at this time of the evening. It's going to be creaking massively in one direction. Let's recreate it for you here in the studio and bring in the government benches, the ones I'm talking about being in severe risk of creaking. Flick of my fingers, I'm told I have to do that to bring in the MPs, colour them with their party political persuasions, and there is the factor of the creak. 419 Labour members on these, the government benches. Moving over here for the first time in 18 years, we can't overstate that. The Conservative Party with just 160 members. Down here, the Liberal Democrats still doing even better than our exit poll predicted. If you remember rightly, it was down in the top 40s. Well, there they are now on 50 seats. The others down here will be 30 in all. That is Plaid Cymru, who've done well, Scottish National Party, who've actually picked up 3 seats. It's also all of the seats in Northern Ireland that we'll be talking to you about tomorrow. And also the others now include one Martin Bell, the popular Member of Parliament for Tatton. Jonathan.
Thank you. And just with the note that we're now only 30 seats away from Labour officially being declared the victor in this election, which we will come to quite soon. But meanwhile, we can go to Tom Bradby in Huntingdon. Tom.